my best wishes to non-resident Indians in the United States and elsewhere. People of Indian origin, wherever they live, they care deeply about what's happening in India. As they say, you can take an Indian out of India, but you cannot take India out of an Indian. We share the triumphs and we get depressed about the sad developments in this country. For instance, when India is becoming an economic giant, which is her due, when our stature is getting enhanced globally, all of us revel in that. But equally, when the Commonwealth Games that ought to have been a triumph are now becoming a nightmare for the country, and India's brand image, which all of you have built up assiduously over decades, instead of being enhanced by these games, is actually being diminished and tarnished, all of us feel very deeply saddened, whether we live in India or abroad, wherever we are, as long as we are people of Indian origin. China had done a fantastic job of conducting its Olympics and enhanced its brand image, and gained economically, politically, and socially across the globe. Sadly, India converted this potential triumph into a disaster, and our brand image actually is getting tarnished, and we're losing politically, economically, and strategically. All this is because our politics is messy, corruption has become endemic, the mighty government of India and all its agencies and the Olympic Committee could not even organize Olympics or the Commonwealth Games with all the support and wherewithal of the government, with enormous resources and with enormous time at their disposal. This is not a surprise to those who understand what's happening in India. Only when the right people care for politics, mainly when they play an active role in politics, only when they understand that the right kind of leadership, advanced planning, commitment to the country, and ending corruption, all these are institutionalized. Only then can India fulfill her potential. And that's why it's important that Indians, wherever they live, must have a place to participate politically. They must have an opportunity to play a meaningful role in the politics of India. That means NRIs must be able to vote. That means NRIs must be able to lead by contesting legitimately. Lok Satta has been in the forefront of the movement to give NRIs the voting rights in India. Many countries in the world give their expatriates the right to vote. Almost all mature democracies in developed countries, many developing countries, give their non-resident citizens the right to vote. Therefore, what India is now attempting to do is something that we should have done long back. Happily, the political parties are broadly in agreement to give the NRIs the voting rights. A bill is now being proposed. But the problem is, they are only removing the residential requirement for voter registration. That means, whether you live in the United States or in the Gulf countries or in Europe or elsewhere, if you have an Indian passport, if you're a citizen of India, you'll be entitled to be registered as a voter without the residential requirement. Ordinarily, for Indians living in India, there is a residential requirement. Unless you live for about 6 months or more in an area, you will not be registered as a voter. But for NRIs, if there's a proof that you're an NRI, you will be registered wherever your postal address earlier was. And you also will have the right to contest elections. These two are important developments. But for this to be effective and meaningful, we must make sure that there's actual registration of NRIs as voters, because our voter registers are very flawed. Equally, we must make sure that there is a right to vote in actual effect, not merely on paper. That means if NRIs are asked to come back to India and vote during elections, then there is no real right. First of all, it's very costly. It requires taking enormous time off their personal affairs and businesses and professions and work. And finally, even if you want to do all this, there simply is no transport facility to enable millions of NRIs to travel from wherever they are in the world in a short span of time during elections. Therefore, you have to create a mechanism by which NRIs can vote wherever they live. One simple mechanism is a postal ballot, and the postal ballot also not something that the returning officer has to send from here by mail, but a postal ballot paper that can be downloaded from internet instantly and then sent according to specifications to the returning officer by mail. Lok Satta is agitating for this. We are creating a movement across India and among the NRIs. Please participate in this, sign up, and ensure that NRIs get the right to vote effectively. And equally important, NRIs can actually contest in elections in India wherever they live, and they can play a meaningful role in the political evolution of this country to transform India. We must put an end to the shame of Commonwealth Games and daily corruption and incompetence and lack of hygiene, and we must end the humiliation that many of us feel across the world. That means we all must play a creative role. Remember, the silence of the good is more dangerous than the brutality of the bad people. You and I have to talk. You and I have to give up our silence. We have to participate. In a democracy, the best way of ending silence is to be registered as a voter, to vote, and vote with good sense, and to contest, and to lead, to articulate, to mobilize public opinion. Only then can we end corruption. Only then can we improve the economy. Only then can India's shame be converted into India's triumph. Only then can India fulfill her true potential. I welcome all of you to join this campaign to see that NRIs get the voting rights and the contesting rights, and to see that NRIs can actually contest as well as vote from wherever they are in the world and play a meaningful role in the transformation of India. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.